The Christ child's asleep, the silence is so deep, that round about with hope in their eyes. The animals await, their breathing they abate, they know their time has come to arise. For Jesus came on earth to offer second birth to all who would the blessing receive. The inner peace he brings can lift us on soul wings to soar in light and heaven perceive. Our pleasures and pains, our losses, our gains, have kept us long bound. The ropes of yearning hemmed us round. We dreamed of imposing on desert sand flower gardens of beauty, verdant vales of delight. Imagination misted our sight. The freedom we would know, Christ offered long ago, and even from his slumber flows peace. All creatures here on earth, alike to their own worth, can welcome love and win their release.
Join us on the first verse.
The Christ child's asleep, the silence is so deep, that round about with hope in their eyes. The animals await, their breathing they abate, they know their time has come to arise.
Beautiful. Thank you, everybody.
Good morning. This reading is from Rays of the One Light. And this is week 50, Living in the Presence of God. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. The Bhagavad Gita in the 6th chapter states, "One who beholds my presence everywhere, and all things dwelling equally in me, he never loses loving sight of me, nor I of him, through all eternity." To see God as residing in every human being, as indeed he does, is to open oneself to the limitless opportunities for serving him. Paramhansa Yogananda, in Autobiography of a Yogi, described a saint who lived in this consciousness as the greatest man of humility I ever knew. He described a seemingly chance encounter with this saint. Another day found me walking alone near the Howrah railroad station. I stood for a moment by a temple, silently criticizing a small group of men with drum and cymbals who were violently reciting a chant. How undevotionally they used the Lord's name in mechanical repetition, I reflected. My gaze was astonished by the rapid approach of Master Mahashaya. "Sir, how come you here?" The saint, ignoring my question, answered my thought. "Isn't it true, little sir, that the beloved's name sounds sweet from all lips, ignorant and wise?" He passed his arm around me affectionately. I found myself carried on his magic carpet to the merciful presence. If you would see God, watch for him everywhere. If you would hear his voice, listen for it in all sounds and also in their supporting silences. If you would know God, seek his wisdom behind merely human knowledge. In the Bible, in the Gospel of St. Matthew, we read of a king, capitalized, for the reference is to God, who welcomes certain devotees to the divine consciousness, saying, I was a hungered, and ye gave me meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me in. Naked, and ye clothed me. I was sick, and ye visited me. I was in prison, and ye came unto me. The elect asked him when it was that they had served him in these ways. And the king answered, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these, my brethren, ye have done it unto me. Thus through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
Hello, everyone. So nice to see so many here today. We had such a lovely time last night decorating for Christmas. Most of you, I think, or maybe all of you, should find your, thank you, Durga, should find your photo on the tree. If you don't, then we have to print more of these things because we used them up. But we can make one for you if you give us your stamp size photo. Now, this month of December is the season that we really focus on Christ consciousness, and especially as manifested in Jesus Christ, because it is the month of Christmas. But also this began in November when we had Deepavali. And Deepavali was the beginning of the opening of a window that helps us be closer to the divine. It's a beautiful festival. And then this time between Deepavali and Christmas is a special time that we can feel especially close to God. And we need to, only of course if we honor that, only of course if we focus on that. But that window is there. We can feel that window. Next week we have our all-day meditation, and that is especially a time to kind of feel that closeness even more. This reading today is basically about practicing the presence of God, which we've talked about a lot. But there's one thing about practicing the presence of God, it's practicing. The word practicing. It's one step away from experiencing. I want to have this be a go for God talk. This morning when I was getting ready, I just popped into my mind, go for God. So how do we go for God? Well, practicing the presence is wonderful. It reminds us of the presence of God by talking to God and bringing God into each decision we make, asking God. But it still feels like God is way over there and we're here. What we want is a deeply personal experience of God. We want it to be personal. We don't want God out there. We want God here. Of course, God is inside, but that is where the ultimate experience is, in bliss, in incredible joy, in light. These 8 manifestations of God that Yogananda-ji talks about are real. People, when they learn meditation, and even after years of meditation, say, what do I do during the silent part of my meditation when I'm not practicing my technique? That's where we're supposed to experience God. That is the experience part. Now, the experience can come during the technique, of course. The experience can come any time of day. But that time of silence after we've done the techniques, that is the experience time. And that experience time, it's great that we do that in our meditation. Maybe people do that for 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the evening after they're doing the rest of their techniques. But that's not enough. If we want to go for God, we have to seek that experience in all things inside ourselves throughout the day. It's not enough to set your watch and say, I'm going to think of God once an hour. It's not enough, even though we suggest it for those who have problems thinking of God at all. But it's not enough. If you really want to go for God, if you're really on fire for God, you have to seek Him with your whole mind, your whole soul, your whole heart, your whole willpower. I remember when I first came to the path, I was a wounded person. I blamed God. I didn't know this, but I actually did blame God for all the problems I had in my life, for all the bad experiences I had. I just thought, well, if God really cared, why would I go through any of that? That's, that hurt, and that hurt, and that hurt, and this hurt, and that hurt. And I'm just full of hurt. But then we learn about karma. We learn about taking personal responsibility. We learn about tests that come our way. We learn about willpower. We learn about raising our energy to meet the challenge that comes our way. And we get out of victim consciousness. It's very hard not to feel victim consciousness, especially when something that shouldn't have happened happened, when someone else caused it to happen to us. But as soon as we do that, we've become the victim. Swamiji wrote a great thing in Living Wisely, Living Well yesterday. Was it yesterday? Where he said, if you care what other people think, you are enslaved to them. That's an amazing thing to say. You're enslaved to them. That includes when people do cruel things to us. If we allow that experience to haunt us for a long time, and we are attached to it's not fair, it shouldn't have happened, God, why did you let it happen, all that kind of thing. We've become enslaved to that experience. We've become enslaved to that person that we're focusing on, why did you have to do that? Instead, what Yogananda-ji talks about is don't engage. Don't engage. If someone is mean, get in your spine. There's no need to engage with a mean person. Let them be mean. You are free to be mean. But get in your spine. This is what Kriya Yoga teaches us. Kriya Yoga teaches us how to respond. Kriya Yoga teaches us that when the difficult circumstances happen in our life, we can hold on to our spine. We can, therefore, hold on to God inside of ourselves. We should be practicing the Om technique for those of you who know it all the time. Meaning, when you are practicing Om and you hear the inner sounds of God, why do you accept just feeling that for 10 minutes, as long as you can hold your arms up? Should seek that sound. The Om technique is a technique that helps us have an inner experience of God. It is a direct experience of God. People think, oh, what chakra am I listening to? Do. It's not that. It is God we're listening to. It's hard to get that. It's hard to get that. But the cosmic sound, which is Om, is a direct experience of God. And when we hear that in any form, our being should be thrilled in every cell of our body with bliss. And we can get there. And so when we listen to those sounds, expect to hear those sounds always. Expect to be in that consciousness. Expect to say, God, are you still there? You could even do a little mudra periodically and try and listen. Just close your ear. When I was a child, this came up because Nayaswami Bharat wrote a book on Om. And unfortunately, only the Kindle version is available in India, not the hard copy, as far as I know, because Ananda Sangha would have published it, and it hasn't yet. But it's worth getting on Kindle. And you can read any Kindle as long as you get the Kindle app on any device. So this book, when he wrote it, it just reminded me of all the times I used to listen to Om as a child without knowing it. And Yogananda-ji said Om brings comfort. It's the comforter. In fact, in the Bible, it talks about the comforter coming. That is Om that they're talking about there. And of course, in the Gita, it's very obvious. Om. Om is written right there. Om. Listen to Om. Om is the cosmic vibration. Om.